Okay, we are live. Well, we've been live for a bit now, but yeah, let us know if you can hear us. We're just doing a quick kind of mic check. So, James, say something.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, are our volumes okay? Can you hear us? I'm spinning a lot in my chair. I'll try and stay still. That'll be a bit distracting. Oh, yeah, okay. Waiting for people. Some people saying hi. Yeah, I don't know what the delay is. I think it changed from last time. I put it on ultra low, but this time I think it's on normal. So, it's fine. No one said they can hear us, but I think they can. We've never had problems with this, but I just want to always make sure. Okay, we've got a one. Yes, they can hear us. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Perfect.
we should be ready to go. Okay, 2 people. That's enough to convince me that they can hear us. So yeah, welcome to the stream. This is number. I always start off saying which number it is, but I always never know. So it's roughly number 8. I'm gonna say 7 or 8. Someone will correct me probably, but yeah, welcome to this GameDev stream. Today we have the guest James. I'll do a quick introduction, which is. Most of you are probably here from my channel, but then again, you know, this time we might have quite a few from your community who don't know who I am. So I'm Nathan, Dapper Dino. The main thing I'm doing at the moment is like mirror multiplayer content. I do it on the channel. I just released a course with GameDev TV, and I do generally intermediate programming stuff is what I'm focused on. James, what do you focus on? What's your main thing?
Well, yeah, I'm teaching Unity as well. Primarily here on YouTube and doing Udemy courses as well. I kind of focus more on beginners, I would say, in general.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably not at the same intermediate level.
I mean, as an outsider looking into your channel, it's all, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2D. That's a main focus.
Yeah, that is a lot of it.
Yeah, I've pretty much done no 2D stuff. I'm awful with sprites and art, stuff like that. I'm okay doing some modeling and animation stuff for 3D, and that gets me by. But yeah, 2D I try and avoid. That's not because I don't like it. It's just because I don't like myself doing it. It's like if I had someone else to do all the art and everything and give me stuff to work with, then I could probably code it. But no, I'm a bit quieter apparently. I can up my microphone a little bit. See if that's fine. Yeah, go on.
I think I only started learning how to do 3D stuff about a year and a half ago. Well, not 3D stuff. I mean, making 3D models and things like that. Obviously, I could do 3D stuff in Unity, like not that hard or anything, but actually making models turns out it was a lot harder than just drawing a few images as you go.
The thing I find why I hate myself doing the 2D stuff is because if it's pixel art, each pixel matters. Whereas with like a model, it doesn't matter if the proportion is like slightly off. No one's going to notice it. With pixel art, it has to be pixel perfect. Even if it's not pixel art and it's just normal high res like 2D stuff, even then I just can't draw. Like I feel like with drawing for the most part, obviously it's like your hand and you draw it and then like there's the line on the paper. Whereas with 3D, it's very mathematical and like there's loads of tools for like in Blender, like the array modifier, and you get like these 4 things evenly spaced on it. I guess obviously 2D can have a lot more of a what's the word? Like less of a factory feel. Like when you're making 3D art, you've got to then make it not look perfect, because in obviously the real world things aren't perfect. But when you're doing 3D modeling, everything is so precise. So yeah, making like realism is a thing. I'm talking like this like I'm actually a 3D artist. I'm not at all, but I've followed a few Blender tutorials. That's enough to say I know what I'm doing. Right?
I definitely think, like obviously in 2D, I like doing pixel art stuff a lot, and then the equivalent of 2D in 3D is low poly art, and it turns out that's what I like as well because it's way easier.
Yeah, I like the low poly stuff too. Oh, we've got the police going by. They're arresting me for my bad art skills. I don't know. I swear every time the police... I don't know. I don't live in a rough place, but it's always when I'm streaming I notice it more. It's because I know everyone else can hear it, and they probably think I'm getting arrested or something. But yeah, I think we've kind of had our little introduction, so now we can start answering some questions. So, what's this? Can you talk a bit about what libraries you use if you want to do a game of Unity using Mirror? Well, this is very targeted at me then. So, what libraries... Well... I don't know, like other libraries, I use Mirror to make a multiplayer game. I don't really import other stuff too. Like, I don't know. Apart from the Unity packages themselves, like usually whenever you set up a project, there's loads of Unity packages. I'll use like Cinemachine. if you use like depending on which template you use, you get like shader graph and the render pipeline stuff all set up anyway. So all the like built-in packages, I usually use like Cinemachine and the render pipeline stuff, nothing too fancy, and then I import Mirror off the asset store, and then I get going. I don't usually use any other third-party tools for that kind of stuff, so I hope that answers it. What game dev or programming discords are you active in? Well, I think for both of us, we're active in our own servers. James, you have your Discord server. That's one thing we didn't get a link down below. Maybe we can sort that out later if we need to, unless you're going to grab me a link. You can grab a link now if you want, but as for like other servers, because my server link, it's not at the bottom on the stream right now. It's if I go back to the starting soon screen real quick, it's actually at the bottom on the thing / was it SN9XXK4? I'm trying to read that. But yeah, we'll get links. If people go to my videos, they'll find it in the description. And I guess on your channel, do you have your Discord link in your channel description or somewhere?
I presume I do.
Maybe. Yeah. Do you take part in other Discord servers?
I mean, I'm just looking at my list here. I'm in a lot of Discord servers, but I'm very rarely actually active in them just because there's just not enough time in the day to like join in. I would say I watch a lot of the conversations that go on and stuff and just dip in, but I'm usually fairly lurky when it comes to that. Yeah, I was about to say stuff.
The same thing. Like obviously my own server, I lurk quite a bit. I sometimes say stuff. And then in other channels, I've got more than I like. The ones I actually use, I use the Mirror server. If I ever need help, that's the best place to go because the devs are in there. And they've been so kind to give me the asset dev role. I don't make assets, but because I make content, it's like we get told about changes before they happen. So if we're going to teach something and it's going to change, we don't have to delete our video in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, that's a good place to get like advice. Even if you don't have the asset dev role, but before I had that, they were still really nice with helping how to get set up with it and bugs and stuff. Well, not bugs, but like I was doing stuff wrong, obviously, and they helped point me in the right direction. I mean, the GameDev TV server. I don't really go in the Unity server. I'm in it, as in I don't really take part in many Discord servers. I'm just in a lot.
It's just there's just never enough time in the day to do everything you want to do. In general.
Yeah, and especially like because there's so many servers, you're not expected to just go into one by one. Hi, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? Take part in 20 conversations and 20 channels across hundreds of servers. Yeah. Basically, if you want to find me, I'll either be in my own server or in the Mirror server. That's basically where I spend my time. And then like you say, you've got your server. Did you find that?
I did, yeah. Mick
I have to say. Oh, he did. Okay. Cool. So, what else have we got? This is about you, okay, or for you, from Roman. James, can you tell a bit about your one-handed car driving simulator? I'm not aware of this, so let me know.
Sure. First of all, hello, Roman. Good to see you again. So it was just something I was randomly working on a couple of weeks ago. I think for some reason I came across some article talking about the longest roads in the world, and there's some stretch of road that was like 200 miles long or something, and I was like, what would it be like to just do a random little game where you have to drive on that straight road? So I ended up doing this silly little prototype for a car game that you control everything with one hand. You have to accelerate and all that stuff with one hand. But it's actually a lot of fun, surprisingly. I was kind of like, should I spend my next few months like making this thing? Or,
Is it more of like a little game jam kind of thing? Like just make it, done, here it is, bye. Like
yeah, a little bit. Like I don't think I posted a couple of videos on Twitter, I think, but actually no. Also, I posted a video on the like Unity Reddit page or whatever, and for some reason people seem to like it. So I guess maybe I should do something with it eventually. Who knows?
When you say
that's kind of sorry.
When you say one-handed, so wait, is it a PC or mobile thing?
PC.
Okay, so
it could potentially be mobile, I suppose.
I'm just imagining. So my cursor is like the hand.
Yeah.
And then you said you accelerate and steer and everything with the same input.
Yeah. So you can't accelerate and steer at the same time. You have to manage all that. You have to change gears. You have to control the wiper blades.
So it's like a
all this fun stuff.
micromanagement thing. Like there's loads of buttons
exactly,
and things to mess with, and you have to like do one thing, then come over here and then do the next thing.
And then there's other cars on the road, so you have to avoid them and all this kind of fun stuff.
You said this is based on there's a stretch of road which is 200 miles or something.
Something like that.
With with no way to get off it. If you crash, if you break down on that road, you're screwed. Okay.
You're screwed. Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
So then the idea is in the game,
don't
have to drive those 200 miles. If you crash into anyone, you're out of luck. You have to start the whole game again.
So you can win your game, right? Like, how long does it take to get to the end? Like, I guess based on the speed you're going at. Like, is it very realistic in that sense?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's like 2.5 hours or something like that.
Oh my no. Yeah, I'm probably not going to try that if I'm being completely honest.
It was a fun little idea though, and it's kind of one of the things I really like about game development in general is like that prototype phase of developing a game. It's kind of the most interesting thing, and I think that's why game jams are fun as well, is because you get that little concentrated thing of trying to make something that works and that other people can play, and it's a really good kind of creative outlet without the weight of having to commit to developing a full game for a year or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like game jams with the whole, you don't have to think about marketing and publishing. It's just like, make a game, have fun, release it, just stick it up on it. It's like, there it is, you've done something, and people can play it, and it might be bad, but I think for one of the game jams I took part in, I think it was one of Bracky's, and it was like to do with the game, what was it called, what was the genre? I think this came up when I was speaking with Jabrils, and I can't remember what the theme was, but I made one of those games, those like platformers where you try and like ruin the player's experience. Like every move you do, you like die. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah. I know the ones you mean. I know the kind of game you mean. I can't think of the name.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the thing you're doing is like a very kind of tight platformer. But in the difference is this one, obviously you don't see the spikes, you don't see the things that are going to ruin.
I know what you mean. Or you jump on a piece of platform and turns out
it just flips over, or it just fades away or something. And the whole point is you win by trial and error. You just memorize the levels where all the hidden bits are that get you, and every time you get one step further and then you get killed. And I had a lot of fun making that. And then like it was probably one of the only projects I've ever done that I've actually sent to my friends and they've played and tried to complete it. Like, I've had stuff before, I've got my friends to help me out, join this multiplayer thing to just test connections over Steam and whatever. All right, thanks, bye. And then with this, it's like, guys, try it. And then they tried it, and then it was like a competition to be... They could say, I beat the game, you know what I mean? Like, the game's not actually difficult. It's very short to beat. It's not hard. But I had a lives mechanic where, like, if you lose all your lives, you do have to start from the beginning. Whereas normally when you die on a, like, level, you just start that level again. So your lives are across the entire game, but yeah. So you could be at the last level with 2 lives, die twice, figure it out, but you're starting from the beginning, going all the way through.
Yeah.
But you generally get so good, you can effectively speedrun it right away.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. What else do we have here? Yeah, Roman said troll platformer. I don't know if that's the official name, is it? Maybe it is.
I don't know if it's the official, but that's what I would think of it as, yeah.
But I definitely had fun making that. And it's the fun that, like, I wouldn't be able to do that, like, and publish it as a commercial game and do all that stuff. Like,
I know, yeah.
But just being able to stick it up and be like, I made this in 2 days is quite fun.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? Would you use Zenject for a bigger game? Well, Zenject... I don't know if you know about it. I first heard about it from Charles, Infallible Code. It's to do with dependency injection, which is a common thing in programming, usually for like, well, the places I've used it out of GameDev has been in WebDev, because your different pages need dependencies. They need to know about this manager, this service. There's fireworks outside. Like, that scared me then. But yeah, you need to have dependencies in these pages, and it's like, well, how does this page get the service it needs to know about? Well, there's a system in place to effectively pass it into the page, to inject it into the page. In Unity, most of the time when your scripts need dependencies, Unity has, you drag and drop them in. That's effectively dependency injection. So people argue, well, you don't need a dependency injection package or thing in place in Unity because it already kind of exists, just in a different form. Like if my door and platform needs to know that this platform opens that door, well, that's just kind of dealt with by dragging it in, and it links the two together. What just happened there?
I nearly knocked over a cup of tea all over my desk. We had like a group call there recently, and I did the exact same thing at the very start of the chat. It was like, poof, knock over drink all over desk.
I've had this desk for about a year now, and I haven't spilt anything on it. Maybe a little bit of food, but I've not knocked over a drink. I've done that while like running upstairs before. I'm running with my drink, and then I get to the top step and I slip, and then it's like, and it's sometimes when I'm in the middle of something, so then I have to run downstairs and then clean it up, and it's oh, there's a lot of fireworks going off. I don't know if people can hear that, but yep, they're going.
Yeah, I can see lights flashing in the background.
Okay, I hope they don't keep annoying people in the stream. We'll just keep going. I hope it's fine. Hopefully they stop as well. But yeah, the Zenject thing. So. Yeah, in Unity you don't necessarily need it for the most part. The only place in a Unity like commercial game where I've seen people use it has been in Pokemon Go. I don't know if it's Zenject or they use some other injection thing, but they do it because their app is less gameplay, more. It's effectively like a web app. You do like a little bit of stuff, but then it's all sending off to their servers to like sync. I don't know where the Pokemon are, what people in your area. It's been so long. Like. They have a lot of services connecting to the web, so those things aren't like actual. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's like big games use injection. It's more about certain types of games do, or like certain types of projects. So I can't just tell you like use it for these and don't use it for those. But I put it this way: I've never actually felt a need to use it, and you haven't either. If you don't know what it is, then you've not needed to use it, and I don't even think I've needed to use it. But because I saw Charles do a video about it, I thought, this is something I would need to use. And it's one thing with programming practices as well is just because you learn about a best practice or a design pattern doesn't mean you're meant to use it everywhere. That becomes then an anti-pattern, you ruin your own project. So it is a thing that I think everyone goes through is, wow, interfaces are so cool. Then they use interfaces for like every class. And then you realize, what is the point in using interfaces? And it's the same with this. You know, people might figure out about dependency injection, use it everywhere, then realize, wait a minute, like this just isn't right for this project, and you have to then get rid of it all. So I'd say don't worry too much about it. In my opinion, like you probably don't need it for what you're doing, but you might. That's the thing. It's for a few niche things, I'd say. When will Scott Boom? I thought it was Scoot Kaboom.
It is Scoot Kaboom.
Someone got it wrong in the chat. I don't know who that was, but. Yeah, I thought I was reading it wrong, but yeah, Scoot Kaboom, when is it coming out? It's still on wishlist on Steam, right? I checked it earlier, I think.
Well, I don't have a like confirmed date yet or anything.
This isn't the reveal stream where we're letting everyone
know.
No.
The most likely some point next year is probably the plan with it.
Pretty safe get, like...
Yeah.
You've given the entire scope of 2021
exactly,
there, so they release it on the last day of the year, and people couldn't hold anything against you, so... Yeah.
It all kind of depends on everything else going on, you know, like... It's not my full-time thing at the moment that I'm working on or anything like that, but it's in a pretty good place already. It's basically like gameplay complete. I just need to add more visual content and things like that, and extra content for the game, but
like
mostly it's there.
I don't know if you remember, but I think it was probably in the first happy hour thing, like we talked, or at some point definitely we talked about the game, and it was only brief. It was basically like just so I could understand that what I thought the game was correct. So it's a platformer, obviously, and it's just like one big map, and as far as I'm aware, it's all designed. Like this isn't procedural. So I mean, that is good. Obviously, people speedrunning it, it's like the same thing. Then again, you could argue with Minecraft, a lot of people do speedruns on random seeds, but there's different categories and stuff. I mean, it would be cool if like you had the map as like the official thing, and then some randomly generating thing that people could just play. Yeah, it would add more replayability.
That's something I did think about, and I think if at some point there became a Scoot Kaboom 2, I'd probably go down that route, but at the same time, like that's probably another 2 years of development.
Yeah, I'm trying to think
to make that work nicely.
Yeah, because obviously you need to have, it's effectively a maze, but also with traps. It's like having a procedurally generated maze isn't that difficult, but with traps, but also making it still doable.
Yeah, exactly, and playable, and ramping up in difficulty as you go through it, and you know.
Yeah. That'd be quite hard. I think the trailer on Steam, most of the map looks done, but then there's like a black area. Is that just an area that isn't done yet, basically?
Yeah, at the time it just wasn't done yet.
Okay.
But also it was like, ooh, who
Mysterious.
knows what's going on there?
Yeah. And then, I think we also asked this was on the terms of like performance. Are there any issues with all this stuff going on, or is as much of it as possible off the screen just not happening? Like,
yeah, basically, like the main kind of limiter with it is like the physics of it all, having all those objects actively working. But eventually I realized, wait, I don't need to have all of these objects working, so it's only like things within a certain distance of the player can actually do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because obviously,
but it is actually, it runs pretty well, surprisingly. Like,
yeah, the animator. I don't know how much stuff has animators on, but that has the built-in like only render if in the viewport or whatever. So or only animate if in the viewport. So I imagine that's easy enough to sort out. But like you said, with other physics things and yeah.
The problem with that though is like then you zoom out and then suddenly the animator turns on for all those things.
Oh yeah.
And it hits your performance really badly. So I actually had to get rid of the animator for everything. It's all just using its own scripts to animate things, because the animator basically, as soon as I stopped using the animator, I think the performance improved like 75% or something.
To be honest, yeah, like I did read a lot about the animator is designed for characters and
exactly. It's not designed
state
for
trees.
1,000 objects to be running at once.
Especially if those objects are just spinning or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You have like saw blades and what else?
Yeah, things like that. Yeah, exactly.
There's like spikes, but I guess they only get triggered when people. Yeah, like
yeah,
because you can obviously just write the code yourself, or there's like tweening libraries to do those animation curves and stuff, and that's like a lot more performant. There's a lot less overhead than the animator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, the animator is thought of for 3D characters. For the rest, it's better off to use custom scripts. Yeah, if you need an object just to like rotate, move somewhere, and then go back, you don't need an animator. Like, sure, you can use it, but yeah. Because I think I saw one of those graphs where it's like one starts off high and one starts off low. I don't know how it's going to look on stream. And then they kind of cross over midway and then go that like that.
Yeah.
And it's saying like, yeah, doing your own code animation is going to be more performant than the animator until you get to a certain amount of animation, in which case it's then going to be better. So for the most part, yeah, if you're doing simple stuff like that, just code it yourself to move. It's whatever. It also allows you with the animator, keyframe animation is very rigid. Like you can't, it's not dynamic at runtime. Like what if you need an animation that is procedural? You have to do it in code. And there is all the procedural animation stuff. Did you see what Andre put on the Unity that he did for the worm thing?
The worm, I saw it. I didn't get a chance to actually watch the video yet, but it looks awesome. I'd love to, like, I've never explored that whole procedural animation stuff.
I have a
some
little
of it
bit.
is so cool.
Yeah.
I love, like, seeing, like, different robots and things with multiple legs. And
yeah.
I've seen cool stuff where, like, people are, like, you know, blowing off the legs of something and it'll automatically adjust to walking with different leg and it's really cool.
A lot more accessible now. It's like with shaders, because when I started doing shader stuff or like looking at shader stuff, there was no official graph solution. So I like programming, but shader programming is a whole nother thing.
Oh yeah.
And I've even been recommended from people who do shader programming, if you're happy with it, just do shader graph. It's like you can pretty much do all the same stuff for the most part, and it's easier, and there are a few benefits to it as well. I mean, you see visual things of every step of the shader with the little things. You don't get that in coding. Yeah. And then when it comes to procedural animation, I see it the same with like inverse kinematics and stuff. Like you could always do it. You'd have to code it yourself and make your own effectively like library for doing all the leg joints and stuff like that. But now it's a lot of like they've basically made those and put them in a Unity package. So if you want to make a spider with legs that move like that, as far as I'm aware, the stuff in the box, like in the rigging package, animation rigging, that's like good enough to use for it. I don't think you have to add stuff to it. Maybe you do, like slightly, but it's a lot easier. I mean, I made a character that has like an idle animation, and that's keyframe, so the character standing there, idle animation, and then I made it so that when a certain thing comes nearby, for example, their arm like points at the thing like going by, and that's procedural. It was a mess to get all the axes right and rotations to make it work. It was a lot of tweaking parameters, but then it's done. Obviously, I didn't go as far as adding clamping. So if the thing I'm pointing at's behind me, my arm bends backwards and like snaps. But yeah, I was like, whatever. I was just doing it for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And it's also...
it feels like one of those things that like you spend ages setting it up the first time you do it, kind of thing. But then as soon as you've gone through that process and you know how to do it, it immediately like becomes way easier every time.
Yeah, you just stick everything on, set it all up, boom. And then I don't know how to do it. For example, my character might have an idle animation, and what if I'm standing on like angled ground? I want their foot to be on the ground. That's something that I've always wanted to look into, but I've just never got around to it, because in the grand scheme of things, it's like I wouldn't even call it a quality of life thing. It's just a polish. It's polish.
Yeah, it's polish, definitely.
If you're making a game, that's not the first thing you should necessarily do. I mean, feel free to, but like, most of the time, at least in my case, I'm focusing on systems and just making the game work. Because I know if I spend time doing art and stuff, it's time wasted for me. Because I'll take longer to make a player model than someone who makes player models. And also, most of the stuff I'm doing is with the intent to teach rather than release. At some point, I do want to like actually make games, like to release. I've only ever released games for game jams because it's, I've actually focused on it, got it done. It's 2 days. It's not a lot of commitment. But for the most of the time, I'm teaching, whether that's YouTube, Udemy, like mentoring, consultancy, like helping people. Ever since I started doing multiplayer stuff, a lot of people have been like, help me make my single player game multiplayer. And the thing is, it's definitely possible. It's a lot easier if you go in with multiplayer in mind. Trying to take a single player game and make it work, I've had to try doing it, and the way you build stuff up is different. It's like you've already got this tower built up and you're trying to change it into a different tower. Like replacing a bit and adding a bit in, and that bit breaks, and then just start again. Like if I had a single player game and wanted to make it multiplayer, I'd make a new project and just refer back to it, take the assets, look at the code, and then, I wouldn't just work on that project as it is. I would never recommend that. You can do it, but you'll save yourself a lot of pain if you do it differently. Are you ever thinking about multiplayer stuff?
I have plans to do like a local multiplayer type thing. I'm kind of working on that at the moment. But like when it comes to networking and anything like that, I've never investigated that myself anyway. So for me to like dive into that, like it's obviously going to require a lot of learning things.
Yeah, I'm not here to try and convert people. I mean, it's like obviously I know from the stuff I've done, a lot of people have tried multiplayer and maybe wouldn't have tried otherwise. And it is like, yes, you have to learn a lot, and I don't understand everything 100%, definitely not, but it's still really fun. Like the feeling of actually getting two people to connect to a game and play, because like, as you know, you've been doing single player stuff all this time, and when I was doing single player stuff for ages and then tried multiplayer, I was like, it just felt so cool, because every time I'd messed with my own games, it'd just been me in this world. And then now it's like, oh, my friend can join. And sure, like then to make that into a big fun game, it's a lot more work. But I don't know. It's something I reckon, like, I'm not telling you, but you might want to try it, even if you don't want to commit to it. Like, just see how it is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I definitely, like, it's on my agenda to, like, eventually get to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because if you just
the same way, like, getting to 3D, it was on my agenda for years, and then I eventually got to it, but it just takes time.
I think with, like, 2D multiplayer, if it was, like, let's say a platformer, for example, it's, like, a lot simpler than you think to get it up and running. To actually get two people connected and running around and jumping on platforms is a lot easier than you'd think just to get going. It's when you start adding in, like, each player has their own inventory and then you can attack, or even like attacking is not that hard. It's just like spawning projectiles. You've got to spawn it on the server and then tell the clients to spawn it as well. And yeah, there's a bit more to every step. It's like building a single player game, but everything you implement, you've got to take into consideration. This is over a network, and what would happen if that guy disconnected? And in a single player game, what if they disconnect? Well, they've closed the game. It's like they're not really disconnecting as such, but yeah, if their PC crashes, then that's tough luck. But in multiplayer, you've got to think, how does that impact other players? If someone leaves a 2-player game, you don't want the game to just freeze and stay out. You want it to end because that player's gone, or you maybe want a period of time where they can reconnect before it then kicks them completely. So.
Yeah,
it's a lot more to consider, but it's fun. It's fun. I'm glad I got into it. I think Gabby Zyga, maybe. Do you remember? Yeah, she recently started messing with Mirror. I think not necessarily to like release a game in it, just to try working with it. And yeah, I mean, that's just one person. I don't know if anyone else I know has like tried getting into it. Obviously, the people in the community have, and have been begging for more tutorials on it. If ever since I started Mirror, every non-Mirror video, people are like, do more Mirror. It's like, I want a balance, okay? I will.
What have you opened yourself up to now?
Like a year or two ago, when I did some Discord bot tutorials, they'd never stop asking. After I was like, all right, you can make a bot and you can do stuff when people join. You can send people messages. You can do embeds, add roles, all the stuff you need to know. Please make more videos. And then it's like, well, what do you actually want me to cover? And everything they wanted me to cover was not actually to do with Discord bots. It might have been to do with third-party stuff. It might have been like, teach me how to do something with a database for my Discord bot. Well, it's just the same as with a database with a website, with a database with a game. They're not really Discord bot tutorials anymore. The Discord stuff is all to do with like roles, joining, leaving servers, all that specific stuff. I did videos on, and then I even did it in JavaScript, then in C# and in like TypeScript, and I think that I've done enough of that. Unlike Unity, like it's effectively infinite in the stuff you can cover. And that, like, sure, I've done a lot more Unity content than Discord bot, but that's because Discord bot's a very small thing.
Exactly, it's a very niche thing.
Yeah. People have made some really cool Discord bots, but when it gets to that point, they're not really doing Discord specific things. Discord is just the outlet that they use. Like, it might be, let's say, it takes an image, like you send an image and the bot will take it and use some machine learning algorithm to tell you what the image is back in a message in Discord. Well, that's the same as if you did it in a website, just you want to know how to take the image from Discord and send a message back in Discord. I've covered everything people, I think, possibly need to know to continue with that stuff. And I'm guessing everyone who does content, you'll probably agree, like, you've probably done a video of some kind of thing and people have kept asking for it for a while. I don't know what that might be for you. What is that for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, everything.
Everything, okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
It always comes back to, like, especially, as things get out of date in Unity, systems will change and stuff like that. Like, people will want, hey, this doesn't work anymore. Can you do more of it? And it's like, I'd love to, but there's only so much time in the day. I literally can't get to everything that's on my list to do. Yeah.
If in every video I get 10 different suggestions, then for those 10, if I made those 10 suggestions and I get 10 more, and it just exponentially goes out of control. It's like, I usually just look, when I go to make a new video, I look at the recent few videos and see what not necessarily just what the most popular thing is. It's like, what is the most popular thing that I also do want to cover myself? And some of the suggestions, people don't really understand the complications of doing it. Like, someone might say, teach us how to make a battle royale with this, and this feature. And it's like, what if the 99.9% of other people that watch don't want that? It's like, I can't just appease to one person, because if I did that, then I have to do it to everyone, to be fair, and then that would never, ever work for anyone doing any kind of content. It just doesn't work. So, for example, I know a big demand is like, okay, you've taught us how to make multiplayer games and like how to host them and get your friends to join, but what if I want to actually have like a game with matchmaking on a server that like we can all connect to, as opposed to connecting to my friend, connect to some server with matchmaking. So that is something I'm looking into, and I'm going to try to get done soon. I'm not guaranteeing it'll be this week's video. I'd be very surprised if I got that all ready to do a video on this weekend, but expect it soon. As soon as I'm ready.
Soon, TM.
Yeah, you were going to say something, sorry. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, like, it's very hard for people who just watch the videos and things like that to know, like, but even doing like one video a week for 10 minutes, a 10-minute long video, like, that's not just 10 minutes of recording time. There's all the time that goes into it. Like I know obviously you're the same. Like, we just released a new course on Udemy last week, and it's, I think, 12 hours long, but we've been working on that for like 3 months.
Yeah, about
like,
3 months. Yeah,
it's just it's really hard to see that work. Like, I know from watching videos as well, like, you would just watch a video and you're like, oh, that person just did that, easy peasy.
10-minute video's over, done with.
Yeah. But like, even doing like gameplay videos on YouTube, like, it takes more than just the time to sit there and record the game. There's also all the editing and all that stuff, like, but also like the being on being active and being engaged takes so much more out of you than you really even think about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, let's say I was thinking of doing a video. Well, first of all, I've got to think about the video and think, is it a good idea? And plan what I'm actually going to do. Maybe make a test project to actually... Maybe it's something I haven't messed around with in Unity for a while. I want to make sure I still know how to do it right, and I'm doing it the right way now. It might be different to how it was a year ago. And then once I've got to that point, that already takes quite a lot of time. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to record. And then let's say I record and it goes smoothly, which doesn't always happen. Let's say it takes... Let's say it takes 20 minutes and I'm doing a 15-minute video, but it's 20 minutes raw footage, maybe even longer. Then I've got to get it all into the editing software, then actually go through it, and let's say it's 20 minutes of raw footage. Then that means editing takes at least 20 minutes because you've got to go through all your raw footage. And then with that, you've got to make sure you're cutting out the right parts and sticking it together right and everything's working. And then you've got to export the video, upload it, fill in all the stuff, post it in places. And like, after you take all that, a 10-minute video takes multiple hours across doing all these things, depending on what it is. So and then you do that times by every request you get in your comments, and you don't have time to live. Like, you're done.
Exactly.
So it's just a case of what's sensible for you to cover, that makes sense, that you want to do, that people want to see. How you have to strike the balance. You can't do if something you want to do if literally 0% of your audience wanted to watch it, which you know, even if no one's asking for something, quite often you can cover it and people realize they might have wanted it, they just didn't know they wanted it. So I mean, sure, with Discord bots, I never asked. I was like, hey, I know how to make Discord bots, here's some videos, and people loved it. And with Unity, some of the features I cover that I might think people want don't perform as well, maybe. They're just like not as interesting. Then sometimes I'll cover something really interesting and it'll just like blow up, and I'll be like, oh, that did pretty well. Normally this video would get 1,000 views after a day, but this one got 5,000. I'm like, oh, people really want to hear about the new thingy, whatever it is. So and yet again, the whole like vocal minority thing, if one person says they want something, then sure, there'll be lots of people who want it who didn't say, but there'll also be lots of people who don't want it that didn't say. There's so many. The people who comment are a very small minority. Same with like just on Twitch streams in general. The people who chat, the chats might look full, but that might be like 50 people out of like a 10,000 viewer stream. So
exactly.
So you can never really base stuff entirely off that. Same if one person says one negative thing. If it's constructive criticism, then I'll read it and try and take it on board. But if it's just someone saying something like, this thing you covered sucks, not necessarily the video, just the thing you covered sucks, I'm like, well, the video's got 10,000 views and it's got loads of likes, so maybe they're the only person who thinks that. I don't know. It's so hard to interpret what people are trying to say and what you should do about it. So yeah, anyway, that's, you know, just our little relatability there. Like tutorial stuff.
Life on the internet.
How do we prepare for a project for deprecated components? How do you prepare it for deprecated components? I guess what I mean is, like, obviously making a game might take multiple years, and Unity updates now major versions twice a year. So like, if I was to start making a commercial game now on 2020.1, because that's not in preview, that's properly out, by the time it's done, it'll be 2023 point, or even further maybe. So I guess you've got to accept, you don't want to fall into the trap that, I mean, this is more relevant for you probably because you're making a game, but you've got to, in my opinion, I guess, restrain yourself from just trying all the new stuff coming out as it comes out. You've got to be like, just stick with what I'm using right now.
If you could give one piece of advice to the newbie game dev, what would it be?
I think that's the general guideline, is like, generally speaking, if you're working on a long-term project like a game like that, just don't upgrade Unity, or at least don't upgrade the version you're using for that. I mean, I have like 20 different versions of Unity on my computer at the moment.
For that project,
but like,
just stick with what you're doing. I know a few people will upgrade if this new feature, if the new update adds something so fundamental to your game. Most of the time it won't. So just stick with what you're using.
If there's not something you need in an upgraded version, don't upgrade, because it'll just, the chances of it breaking something you don't even realize until like months later is just, it's just too high.
We got a question donation here. If you could give one piece of advice to the newbie game dev, what would it be? So like, if you could go back in time and tell yourself when you started, here's some advice. Might have to take a minute to think about this.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Like, not to say that like I did everything amazing when I started, but like I feel like the way I went about it was the way you should, which is I just dove in and just tried stuff. Like the reason I got into this whole Unity like tutorial stuff in general even is one day I was just like, oh, I just want to try and make a game. And I started just trying to make it, just following these random tutorials. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, hey, there's no tutorials that I thought would have really helped me. And then I went, oh, I'll just try and do some random tutorials myself. So that was all that or whatever. But I think that's the way to do it. I think is just dive in and try stuff. Like one thing I think is people especially need to do is not to just follow tutorials, but like do a tutorial, but immediately try and change it. Do something different with it, you know? Because I feel like that's a trap I definitely see people fall into. Like I've seen people like who have made games based on like different tutorials I've done or different courses or whatever, and they'll come out of it afterwards and they'll essentially have essentially the same game with slightly different content. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important is to not just do that. Like try your own things. Try and see what you can do yourself, what you can bring to it.
Yeah, like I guess. Well, the question was about like advice to give my previous self.
Yeah,
I don't know.
My advice would be, hey,
you're doing it right.
Keep it up, you.
Yeah,
you're on the right track.
Yeah, I think when I started with Unity specifically, because I'd messed with Game Maker before, but I went to Unity because I wanted to do 3D stuff, and you could only really do 2D there, and because I was more on the programming side. You know, Game Maker script thing isn't like a proper programming language, and I knew that maybe I don't get into game dev for my real thing, so. Maybe I need to be prepared to do other languages, like real languages that are used in different things. So I thought C#'s pretty big language, and then maybe if I was to do Unreal, maybe some C++, and then whatever else. And yeah, what would I tell myself? I'd tell myself like not to spend too long refactoring, like because the thing is, obviously, I'm more on the programmer side. When I make a project, I'm coming at it from like a programmer's point of view, but also as an indie dev, you kind of have to do everything yourself. Now, I'm not an indie dev in the sense of I'm actually an indie dev studio releasing games. So I don't have to worry when I'm working on actually making it look good at first. Like I don't have to try and impress people and get funding and get a publisher or anything. Or even, I'm not releasing like, here's how the game's going. And obviously they don't see your code. They see what happens when you play the game. So, but at the same time, I also know, well, if I do want to make this game finished, then I'm going to be working on it for a lot longer. And I don't want the code to be my downfall, where like adding a new attack just means I have to make 10 new scripts where I inherit and change the name and then change one variable. So anything like that, I'm trying to like, I spend most of my time thinking about like the design of the code and like the architecture of, I've made like an inventory system so many times before, but every time I always question like, is it a good way to do it? And I know every game's inventory is different. Some games have weight. Some games have, like, Tetris, effectively. You know what I mean? Like, I know Tetris goes down, but you get the point. The packing your bag kind of inventory. Where you've got to...
I know what you mean.
Yeah, they all work differently, but there's still some similarity. You'll have a rough, similar-looking class where you've got inventory with, like, functions to add an item to it. Whether maybe the data passed in will be slightly different, but the way it works will be slightly kind of similar. So, yeah, I guess when I was, like, earlier on, I probably spent too much time refactoring at that stage when I was learning Unity. I think now it's okay to spend more time doing it because I already know all the... Like, if someone said to me, make me a prototype for this kind of game, like this genre, I'd be able to do it. I'm not needing to learn that kind of new stuff, but, I mean, there's definitely stuff I still need to learn, like shaders, procedural animation, inverse kinematics.
There's always something.
There's always something, yeah. I mean, I could also say like audio, art stuff as well, but that stuff I don't plan on necessarily going into. But shaders, and I know shaders is art programming. It's kind of just in the middle.
It's a weird mix,
like technical artist is the usual thing. Yeah, so I'm still like interested in that. And same with audio. I don't know about I the amount of games or projects I've made that don't even have a single audio source because I'm just making gameplay. Like, because audio is completely polished. Or you could say, I mean, for accessibility, I guess. I don't know. When I've been working on my own projects, I'm not thinking about release, so I'm not thinking about localization and like support for people with different like disabilities and all the accessibility options. Because I'm just thinking this is only for me, so I don't have to spend time on that. But then I've got to think about, well, if I was to release it, that's stuff I might actually have to consider.
Yeah.
But that's another good thing about game jams. You don't really have to consider that. It just helps you get your game out quickly. Focus on the gameplay, get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so your advice is you're doing good, and mine is maybe just calm down on the refactoring. Just make some fun stuff. Like, yeah, I probably spent a bit too much time doing that.
Get things done is important.
Yeah, and that's also the same with like web stuff. I think Mick was actually the person who helped me. Like, we were both working on stuff, and then he's like, "All right, let's make the next thing." I'm like, "No, we need to make sure the last thing is like properly refactored and good." And then it's probably already fine anyway, but it could be made a tiny bit better. But it's like, no, it's like it's not worth the time spent for the.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about weighing up those things. That's why I like game jams. I don't refactor in game jams because I know I only have 2 days, and once it's done, I'm not looking back at it. So
no, yeah, exactly.
If
nobody's ever going to look at that code, so
yeah. If you have a problem, wait. Oh, what was this? Oh yeah, so is it Ruben, GameDev Guru? He was saying, I think this was back when we were talking about the upgrading your project version and stuff. He was saying like, yeah, if you have a big code base and you do upgrade, it can take a very long time to actually find the root of the issue, like the source of the issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bigger the project, the worse it is. If you've like just started and the new version comes out, then
yeah,
whatever, right?
That's it's okay then.
Yeah, if you're like months in and you've got a lot of stuff, then maybe not. But yeah, again, it depends if there's like a new feature you need or whatever. Maybe there's massive performance increases and it's definitely worth it or whatever.
I think actually one of the other major things they recommend is not to move out of the year that you're in. Like at the most, go to the version like 2019.4 or whatever.
The long-term support, because I don't know, I can't remember how many years they like guarantee they give on those versions. It's quite a few years.
I think it's at least 2.
At least 2. Yeah, so if you're on that version and a bug crops up, they promise that they're going to fix it. As opposed to if you're on 2019.3, they're not going to update that. It's done. It's left behind.
Exactly.
So yeah, LTS versions are better, especially for commercial releases.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, going from 2019.1 to 2 isn't like as drastic as a change. It's still pretty big. Like they sometimes add a lot of new stuff, but
yeah, I think between like 2018 2 and 3, they changed the whole like prefab system.
Oh, it was in one of those versions, not like a year version. It was in a.
No, it was in the middle of that, and I remember I was in the. We were working on a new game dev course at the time, and like we had a whole game prototyped out and ready to go and start recording, and then that changed and it broke all the prefabs and everything.
Honestly,
and like, I was only happy that we hadn't started recording, and then would have had to re-record everything.
I'm happy. Like if I was back in that spot, I would call the new prefab system definitely worth the upgrade. Like the fact you couldn't have nested prefabs. When I started in Unity, I was just confused. I was like, why can't I do that? It sounds such like an obvious feature. Then I saw all the forum posts about people complaining, like, why haven't they added it for years? And then very soon after, they added it, and I was like, yay! It's like so good. You take it for granted now. It's like, why? I don't know why they never had it. I think they said it was just the technical implications of trying to do it. It would be a huge bit of work, but it's definitely a necessary huge bit of work to do. I don't know how other game engines were at the time in like that same aspect.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like Unreal had nested prefabs, but I don't know. I've never used Unreal, so
yeah, I've used it to give it a shot, but I've never like really stuck with it. I don't think it's a bad engine, but at the same time, it's like I know Unity and I like Unity and I can make stuff in it now, and I don't need to go somewhere. I don't think you should. Sure, you can try out different engines to kind of see what they're all like. I've tried Godot for like a couple hours, and the download's like really small. It's just like one file. You just run it and it's done, and then you can stick it on a pen drive and just run it on there. Like it's really small, and obviously it has its benefits. I just don't feel the need to move from Unity. Like we said with the packages, if you don't feel the need to move on to a next package, then for now just stick with the package. See what you can make. There's no. As long as you don't just use the standard Unity like visuals, people won't tell what your engine is unless they're a game developer and they want to know. Like, I'll often play a game and be like, I wonder which engine this was made in. And sometimes I'll be able to figure it out. Sometimes I'll go on like Steam into Steam apps where the games are like downloaded, and I can tell from like the file structure, the folder structure of a game, whether it's made in Unity or not. Because they have like an underscore data file and like a folder and something else. And I just know, like, just from looking at that. Sometimes
from like just playing lots of Unity games in general, like I feel like now at this point, like especially in a game jam, I'll usually watch like streams of people playing game jam games, and a lot of times I'll be like, this is a Unity game, isn't it? I don't know what it is about it. There's just something identifying, like, especially when you use just like the standard settings, like literally if you use the post-processing effects at all, if you put one post-processing effect, it immediately makes your game stand out from every other Unity game out there. You know what I mean?
It's like the color grading, and then like the like bloom and vignette and whatever else. Those are like the three I can think of that I mainly use. I don't often use depth of field because I can never get it looking right.
No, me either.
I think with, like, depth
it's an effect that I love in games in general, and I can never get it right, and I feel
like
right.
people in good games with depth of field, they have to like, I might be wrong here, but I feel like they have it dynamically changing, because you can't like hard setting up like a position like that the depth changes, but your game, like for example, what if you zoom in and out for your character, then like your character at a certain zoom level would just be a blur. Like you don't want that. So it's a lot more sophisticated when people use it properly than just sticking it in and just
like my problem with that is like I don't understand how it works on an actual camera, so trying to work it out in the
I'm not a photographer. No, I'm not a photographer. So like I was looking at the HDRP camera stuff, and it's like physical camera settings, focal length and stuff, and it's like I can kind of guess what it means, but I'm not used to knowing what the impact is. I'll just tweak it and be like, how does this change the picture? I think it's also really cool for photographers to actually be able to tweak all those things. Like I'm sure that excites them. Like just like how when I see like a new dots thing or a new multiplayer thing, and I'm like, oh, exciting. And then I can imagine how exciting that is for other people. For me, I don't know what like settings to put all that stuff to. Usually I just leave stuff on default if I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, they probably put it on that default to protect people like me. So
yeah, exactly.
Talk about the future of Unity, like dots. I think it's in a state right now where it's very hard to comment on it. I mean, I tried using it when it came out in preview for us to be able to use as the public, and I made some stuff with it, and I understand the theory behind how it works and why it's so much more performant. But at the same time, even from when I made those videos months ago, it's changed now. People have told me those videos are out of date. If I do them now, they'll be out of date in a few more months. I just want to make sure when I do more content on it, like I like to do a video when something is initially released to the public, and then when it's out for real, because I can say this is coming and this is what it's like. I'm telling people like don't necessarily use this in a commercial product right now, but the benefit, I talked about this with Chiro, the benefit of knowing preview stuff. Like some people hate preview stuff. Have you seen on the forums people like, why do they always do these preview packages? It's like beta testing. They're not putting them there for you to use right now in a commercial product. That's why they tag it a preview. They want people to test it. It's better than releasing it and thinking it's good and it's not. That's the entire point in beta testing. If they say, here's this new package, in 2 years time we might, this like the UI is switching to use this new UI system, they're giving you plenty of time in advance to switch over. And like for dots, for example, if dots didn't come out in preview and it still was hidden to us all as the public, I wouldn't know anything about dots. So when it gets released, I'd have to then learn it and like understand it all right away. They've given us kind of a head start. So when it is ready, even if the syntax has changed, we understand how it works. And it's very similar to how Unity is now, with game objects with components, entities with components. It's a similar, like, as a programmer, you don't really have to change what you're doing that much. You have to know about jobs and scheduling stuff, but it's not that big of a difference. You don't have to worry about like inheritance for the most part, and like how you get references and stuff. Like, yeah, you have to change what you do a bit, but the benefits you can get, like, I mean, people have seen all the tech demos, surely, like of dot stuff, and it's like, wow.
I know, some of it is crazy.
If only those were like, if they could make that as easy for a developer to make as right now you can make something with game objects, then people would use that. And people are saying now, no one will ever use that. It's too complicated. I think it's only complicated because people don't know how to use it. It's like we're taught object-oriented programming as like the first type of programming. And then if you ever use any other types, it's like you have to then learn that. But
you have to change how your mind works, kind of thing.
Exactly. Right? If this was the norm, if ECS was like the normal programming paradigm, then people would find OOP weird. Like, what's all this inheritance and like how everything works and the mono behaviors? Like, I have to inherit mono behavior and have a serialized field private reference to this other component here, and like it would seem weird. We don't think it's weird because we're using it, but I think it's not good to say it's too hard, no one will ever use it. Same with the new UI system. People say it's hard, no one will ever use it. Well, to get the same thing you've got now in the new UI stuff, it's not that different. And sure, it's different, but you have, the thing is that they've designed it with like web developers in mind, because the way you design a website is very similar to the new UI, and they love it. It actually allows web developers to get into game dev and do their web developing, but in a game. And it also, for non-web developers, there's like just like a toolbox inspector thing where you can just change everything like you would normally on stuff. You can just drop in an image and set the image thing. Like, for the people who don't like it, a lot of people don't like change. And yet again, like we were saying with packages, they're not releasing this and saying, all right, the game you're working on now, drop it and use this new package. It's like, no, this old stuff will still exist. You can go download, I don't know how old of a Unity version you can go find on their thing, but they exist still, and you can develop a game using it. But they're trying to move on, especially as a tech company. They have to move on to make stuff more performant.
It makes sense,
to make stuff more performant. Sometimes when you make stuff better, you have to make it a bit more complex to allow for the better stuff. It's like, to make the most performant programs, you need to get as low level as possible under the hood. Now, we're using a game engine because we don't want to write a game engine to make a game, right? But at the same time, you've got to accept that certain things are going to be advanced. I think it's always good to have the advanced stuff there, so long as there's also a simple way to get something up and running as well. I don't know like how they'll strike that balance, but because right now it's nice, stick a button, press the plus, and drag in a script and call a function. That's really nice. With the new stuff, I don't know how to do that exact thing. Well, I know how to make a button call a function. I don't know how to do it easier than the way I did it, which was like make a script, get reference to the button, and then subscribe in code. You can subscribe to the current button's callbacks in code. Most people just do it via the inspector plus drag in the function. But I think it's just time will tell. It's so early in preview. People shouldn't be making their minds up now. Well, they should, and they should tell the team what they think, and it's got time to adapt over time. If everyone hates the way they've done something, then they'll probably change it. Unity are pretty good at that kind of stuff, I think. Some people disagree, but like with videos, you can't just suggest a video and then be like annoyed when they don't make that video
instantly. If
you say your game should do this differently, you can't then be annoyed that they just don't do it. Like, it's up to them to take the valid criticism, and if it's good criticism and everyone else thinks it too, then the likelihood is they will take it on board. If something they've done is just bad. But for the most part, I don't think most of the stuff they do is bad, so I'm not concerned. I like playing with the new stuff because it's exciting to see this is where we'll be in 2 years, maybe. Maybe. If you had to start a game now, which Unity version would you choose? I think we'll probably both say the same thing here, but go on.
Whatever the current version is, basically.
Yeah, I guess that answer kind of works for whenever anyone would watch this video. I mean, I would have said 2020.1, but yeah, that's what I mean. Like, whatever the latest stable version is. Like, you can download 2020.2 now. I have a beta version installed, but I don't. I might use it if I'm like making a project that I'm just working on with myself, right? If I'm testing out new features, that's kind of the point. If I'm doing a game jam, because it's a game jam, it doesn't really matter. I might use it if I'm being risky, but I might just I probably would just use 2020.1. So I think commercial use the LTS versions, like the last of the year. So if I was making a commercial game now, probably 2019.4. If I was making my own project, probably 2020.2, if it was just like messing around, learning stuff, trying out new things. And then if it was a game jam, probably 2020.1. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Because someone just donated, but it hasn't popped up yet, but I see it in the chat. It's a super chat. I also don't have a clue how much money that is because it's in rubies or whatever RUB is.
I have no idea.
Thanks, Cadfoot. Kind of late for Halloween question, but did use the Boo language when it was available. Oh yeah. Okay, you've probably been using Unity longer than me, but I also remember. Do you remember Boo as the language?
No, I think Boo was already. It might have been gone when I started with Unity.
What version did you start in, or what year? Can you remember?
4.3, I think.
Is that what they called the versions back then?
Yeah.
That was before me, definitely. Yeah.
I think that was like 2014, 2013. I can't remember.
Damn, that's a while.
Around that time.
Yeah, I started in 2016 or 2017. And so yeah, I don't know. When did they switch it to being Unity 5? Like where they just called the versions 20 whatever.
Unity 5 was a thing, and then 2017 I think was the first like yearly one, wasn't it? It might be.
I mean, I remember back when I started there was no Unity Hub.
Yeah.
I remember.
Oh yeah.
And I think it must have been 2017 when I started. I think.
Yeah.
It might have been earlier, but I'm gonna just say 2017 was when I started, and there was no Boo. There was JavaScript, but that's now not a thing anymore.
Or Unity script.
Was it?
Not quite Java.
Okay.
What? Not quite JavaScript. Unity script was their special thing.
But it was a subscript of JavaScript, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a language called TypeScript, which is by Microsoft, and it's JavaScript. It's C. Because it's by Microsoft, who made C#. It's like C# syntax-ish, but it's JavaScript. I don't know how to like explain it, but the point is, it's like JavaScript, but for C# developers. That's probably a better way to explain it. There's actual like type safety and like because in JavaScript you just say let variable name equal value or var variable name. There's no like strong typing, so when you have a function in JavaScript, you don't know what that parameter type is. And as a C# developer, I don't like that. It's weird. Some people like it, having to not bother typing the types out. Like, but yeah.
I'm the same.
So it's called TypeScript. It's got the word in there, type, and then Microsoft made it and stuff. And if you can actually use that for anything that uses JavaScript, because when you compile, it compiles into JavaScript. So Discord bot, you can use the JavaScript library, but write your bot in TypeScript, and it just works because it compiles that. So I imagine Unity script gets compiled into JavaScript. I would imagine. But Boo, I have no idea. Don't even know what the syntax is like at all. I've never used it.
I never touched it. So
yeah, kind of late for Halloween. Yeah, the Boo. I wonder why they called it Boo. It probably stands for something maybe, or
be short for Boolean. I don't know.
That'd be a pretty weird name for a language, though, wouldn't it?
Things can only be true or false in this language.
Yeah, you have to like define your own data types made up of just bools. I don't know how that would work, but yeah. I think that answers the question. But yeah, thanks for that donation. Why am I looking? More questions. Someone asked for the multiplayer course, will we be doing RPG systems and stuff in the future? Well, I was actually talking about this with James earlier about, you make a course on one thing, and people want everything else. I understand people don't mean it they don't mean it in a demanding way, like you better do this. It's about like they're genuinely like, I liked the thing you did, can you do more? It's a compliment, but it's also like you can't just do that, because then one person asks for an RPG as an extra, then someone else asks for an FPS, someone asks for a card game, and then it's like, I mean, yeah, sure, I could just pick one and maybe do that one as an extra, but I can't make everyone happy. I think for us, it's more valuable to move on to think of other ideas for courses than to dwell on one for too long. The goal in the multiplayer course was multiplayer. We just used an RTS as a implementation of it. So like the first section of the course is all about core mirror stuff, non-genre specific, just how to connect players, syncing variables, calling server calling clients, the stuff you need no matter the genre. Then section 2 was take that, make an RTS. Sure, we could do take that, make another game, but it would just be a lot of time, and I don't think people would get more out of it. They would get more out of it. Yeah.
You could just cover in the same idea. The idea is how to implement the multiplayer into a game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the game is.
Exactly. So like GameDev themselves have like an RPG course. So if you followed that, like I imagine you could probably take the two, and you can't just smash them together and it worked. But you can look at those mechanics they've made and just think, all right, sure, that's how I did movement in the RPG. Now that's got to be networked, so tell the server the movement and the server moves you. And it's possible to take the two and kind of work them together. Don't just try like I don't know how you'd even try and mash them together. Like literally, you can't just you can't really do that. But so no plan on doing an RPG multiplayer course. That's the answer. But I do think I encourage people who have finished the course to then actually try other genres that they want to do with the skills. I mean, the main useful parts of the course is section 1 with fundamentals. You can take that, apply it to anything. So yeah, I think that was one thing we made sure when making the course, was to make sure that people could take it and make their own genres and not just be stuck and stranded at the end. And we encourage people, as like the final thing of the course is, what next? Go try and make the game you wanted to make, an FPS, a card game, a platformer, with these things, and share it with us, because we want to see what people have made with it. It'd be quite cool.
Exactly.
We still got a few more lectures to add, which we've said as like a deadline. We get them done by the end of next week, and that's just the lobby and the Steam integration, so that rather than having to port forward and go into your router settings, you can actually use Steam, and you send your data to Steam, and then Steam sends it to all the other players. So it goes through them as a relay rather than through your router, like directly. It means that your friends, whoever you're playing with, don't have to connect to your router, which then there's firewall settings and stuff you got to think about. Steam just handles it all. So yeah, that's the like last little bit to add, and then you should be able to make a card game you can join your friends in on Steam and whatever.
Like I think that's a really important thing that people like need to try, is like, or to realize, is that like you need to just try these things and see what will work. Like definitely one of the most commented things I get in general is like you said, I enjoyed this thing you just did. Can you do it slightly differently for the game that I'm making? You know, so that I can understand it. But like the thing is, you need to try it. That's how you learn, is by trying it your own way anyway. But like, you also need to go through that process to realize, oh, like I can just try this thing and do it a bit differently. Like, you don't have to try it out and commit to doing that thing for 3 months. You can try it out over a weekend and see if that works. Like, for example, like we just released a new course that's like an action RPG game, and it's all in 2D. And one of the first comments that I got, I can't remember if it was on YouTube or somewhere else, was like, oh, could I do this in 3D?
Yeah.
And straight away it's like, well, yes, of course you can. Like, there's like maybe you'll do the movement a little bit differently, but obviously the ideas of an RPG will work. Doesn't matter whether it's 2D or 3D. It's literally just about, you have to just try it.
Yep.
You know?
I get that a lot. It's like, thanks for this video. Can I do it this way? Yes. It's programming. You can do anything. Pretty. Like, there's probably, I don't know, some stuff you can't do. Probably.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you can do pretty much anything. So, like you said, obviously, whether it's a multiplayer course or I think, what is yours, like a Zelda-styled 2D?
Yeah, 2D,
thing?
like
I think
RPG thing.
I think I watched the trailer. Oh, someone's followed. I never get when it says followed. Does that mean followed on Twitch and I'm getting a notification for that, or is it subscribed?
Yeah.
Oh no, it says subscribed on the UI. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not a professional streamer by any means. My stream setup is kind of simplistic, but it gets the job done, and that's all that matters. Yeah, like if you're teaching them how to make a game like that, do they expect you to teach them how to make their game for them? It's like your game wouldn't be unique if I'm just making it for you. It's like people can take that and it's like, here are some mechanics, change them. Like maybe they want most of the mechanics to be the same, but they want the attacking to be different. Yeah, just do it. Like
exactly.
Like I said, eventually you want to get to a point where you can continue on your own independently. So the longer you wait for that, the longer it takes. So if you follow this course and you're like, cool, I've made this thing and I have all this knowledge and I have this project and course to refer back to for knowledge, then you should be able to work on your own project. And if you ever get stuck, then refer back to it. But the whole point is we're giving you the tools necessary, not actually making the game for you. Like,
definitely.
Does some people actually, I guess some people might get annoyed, like, oh, they're making RTS. They watch the course and they're like, but the RTS I had in mind was slightly different. It's like, well, make your RTS then. Sorry, I didn't psychically make it the way you wanted. And there's like tons of other people that probably wanted it all slightly differently. Some people want Fog of War, some don't. Some people want ranged units, melee units, and then some people want like to add, I don't know, abilities to their characters too. And it's like, the more time we spent on making the RTS more complicated, the less it becomes a multiplayer course. Like the course currently is like 9 point something hours, and when I'm done, it'll be like 10, maybe pushing 11. Probably more like 10. But the more we add to the RTS, the bigger percentage is an RTS, and the smaller percentage is multiplayer focused. Because like we did a lecture or two on like minimap stuff. Minimap has literally nothing to do with multiplayer merit at all. It's all client side, like just on your machine. So that doesn't mean it wasn't worth doing it. We still need, minimap is like in 100% of RTSs. That's a required feature.
Yeah.
A lot of the other features are in maybe a lot, but not all, or just some. And like I said, but like, let's say you're following the course and you don't want to make an RTS, you want to make something else. Well, then you might not even value the RTS section that valuable anyway. It's still good to see implementation, but it's in a completely different genre. So we don't want to make like a couple hour starting section and then like a really long RTS section where the people who buy it only find the first hour valuable and the rest useless. So it's really good to just in the RTS section, movement, attacking, targeting, killing the base, that's all multiplayer stuff too, because we got to think about syncing it all and stuff like that. The donation thing's gonna talk over me in a second, or not. Wait, I don't hear anything talking. Okay, it's nice when it doesn't talk, because then I can't talk either, and if you start talking because you don't realize, then you're competing against it and you don't even realize. I guess we'll just quickly end off what we were saying about that. Basically, we encourage you to not just copy the course directly, or at least maybe some people would when they're following the course. Then once they're done, then work on it their own. I don't think there's much harm in following it along when you're starting, but it's always good if you can make your own adaptations. But
and just like that's something I like that we've really tried to bring into newer courses as well, is the idea of like in the middle of the course, we'll just be like, hey, at this point, I'm going to tell you this is a thing you can do. You just go ahead and try and do it, So they have to try and do it themselves and develop that skill. I think that's really important to try and do.
One of the things GameDev TV does that I had to do, which I don't have any problem with it, was like challenge slides. Like instead of having little quizzes between lectures, they have a challenge slide in pretty much every lecture, pretty much. And I had to come up with these challenges for each lecture. So, for example, if I was implementing setting up a unit and movement stuff, I'd get to a point where we switch to the challenge slide and talk about how people should either, if you can, use your own models and set it up to fit that model, the colliders and the nav mesh stuff and whatever. And then with movement as well, like don't just copy the same speed I'm using. Make your own speed and acceleration and just make it your own. Even if it's only slight tweaks, it still is more personal to you. You shouldn't be looking, Nathan shows the speed value as 10, so I'll use the speed value as 10. It's like, yeah, but your unit might be faster and smaller than mine or whatever, right? So make it yourself. If you're teaching people in a game like with abilities to make this fireball attack, then why not go and make some frost attack of some kind? Like, just do it differently, I mean, Anyway, so thanks to In and Out for the $10 donation, asking, would I ever consider having the creator of Bolt on your stream? Oh, I've not even considered that. He's on other people's shows and podcasts and seems like a really intelligent guy. Yeah, obviously you know what Bolt is. I'm assuming most people do. If they don't, it was a third-party visual scripting solution that Unity have acquired. I don't know much more than that on the interior stuff with it all, but they're integrating it into the engine, and I think, I still don't actually know for sure, but I think they're integrating it with dots somehow in the future, and they're making it, the performance will be better, because, I think what's happened is the person who is working on it, who's made it or whatever, is actually working with Unity on it, like, properly now, which you get a lot better support, and the fact it's like effectively an extension or like an editor tool, having Unity themselves be able to help you with that, I'm sure you'll get better performance and just it'll be a lot easier. So I don't know for sure, that's just how I imagine it's gone down. But yeah, he would be definitely a pretty cool person to have on. I mean, we'll just have to think about it, because I've used Bolt a bit and I want to use it more, and it's obviously right now, as they're trying to integrate it with the engine more natively, as opposed to just being this third-party asset, it's changing quite a bit, and I'm in actually the Bolt server. It's just, I don't know. I'll see how it goes. As a programmer, I like programming, but I don't agree with the people who say you should program everything. Because why are we using a game engine? If you want to program everything, why using a game engine? Why do you use the animator? They're all visual tools that someone has coded the tool and then used the tool. If you're making a dialogue system in your game, like a tree dialogue thing, you want to have a tool to build it. Like you make the tool, then you design your dialogue. You don't want to have to code the dialogue for every dialogue. It doesn't make sense. That's the way I see visual scripting is, sure, as a programmer who wants to make a dialogue system, you code your dialogue system. When it comes to making the dialogues, all the data stuff, make a tool. I encourage you to make a tool that makes it easier for you to do that. It'll save you time, and that's something that's valuable to make. Like I was saying, if you wanted to code everything, make a game engine. And then they'll say, oh, but I don't want to make a game engine. It's like, well, why are you against people using visual scripting to control enemy states machine, for example? State machine is like the perfect thing to have a visual tool for, because it's a very visual thing. You see they're in the idle state and they're going to attacking state and then jumping, and it's a really good visual thing. So yeah, I don't know if you've ever used Bolt, or is it on your agenda?
Yeah, it's on my agenda, but like I 100% agree. I think like using visual scripting is just another way to learn how to make games. It doesn't matter, like ultimately when someone is playing your game, they don't care whether it was all hand programmed or anything like that. But yeah, as long as it runs good, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think one of the people's main concerns, people in general, one of the main concerns with visual scripting is the performance, that it is less performant because of the fact it's got this weird tool that it has to then make it into code at the end of the day, and all the compilation stuff, and I don't know, compiler, that's beyond me at the moment anyway. So with all the new Bolt stuff, that's one thing that is on their main agenda is, well, if they can make it performant, like as performant as C#, or like almost as, like very close to, then it'll be fine for pretty much everyone. If a lot of the time, if you're noticing lag with your game, it's visual scripting or whether you're coding, it's not the option of those two. It's probably something you've coded is just wrong. Like, well, I say wrong, you might have some really badly performing loop, or like you said in your game, having an animator on like hundreds, thousands of things. That is going to be a lot of overhead, and that's why the profile is good to help you find the root of your issue.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's have a look at the next question. By the way, we only have like another 15 minutes roughly, because James has to go at past, so we'll try and get through. How many more questions can we do? What game has inspired you to start game dev the most?
Well, I started out working with 2D platformers, and I grew up playing like Mega Drive games and stuff. That was my kind of thing back in the day. So like I think I've always wanted to make Sonic, basically.
Have you ever got to making your Sonic clone?
I made a very dodgy Sonic clone at one point where you played as a little Planet Earth thing. It was for one of the Ludum Dare game jams, and one of the things was you could roll around and you went around the Sonic style loop-de-loops. So that kind of got that itch out of me eventually.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've already answered this before. I always go with either Skyrim or Minecraft. Keep in mind, I'm a bit younger, so I don't. The first handheld console I had a DS Lite. If that puts that into perspective, a DS Lite was when I was young, and I had like the old Xbox, like the first Xbox, before the 360. And then I very quickly got off consoles and went to PC, and I've not. The last console I owned myself was a Nintendo Wii. I haven't had anything newer than that. A Switch looks pretty cool, and I have plenty of friends who have told me to get one, but I just know I wouldn't use it, at least right now. So maybe if I'm ever developing and want to release on Switch, then I have to buy one to, But for now, I'm not too fussed. Skyrim, it's Skyrim or Minecraft. I mean, I never actually got into Minecraft modding. I made some plugins for Minecraft, which it's kind of similar. You're coding and affecting the game. But Skyrim had like a developer toolkit on Steam that you could just get for free. And I played with that, made my own quests, made my own dialogue NPCs, uploaded my own audio files talking as the NPCs. And it was really fun. And that's the thing. I didn't have to code anything because they made such good tools that I could just come in and add new content. That's another thing about... At that point, it's not really visual scripting that I'm doing, but I can like create new dialogue, starting dialogue, options. If you press this option, go to this dialogue. Like, it's all done there and it works. And it means programmers can sit back and relax while the designers make all the stuff because you've already... And then there's a bug, then
again, that's another example of the benefit of visual scripting.
Other people get on board with it. Like,
exactly, yeah.
You're not making it programmer only. All right, let's go on to the next question. Let's try and get through as many as we can. If I can find one. All right. I'm fairly new to making games, although I feel like I've gotten the solution solving aspect and can understand fundamental coding. It can feel overwhelming at times. Will this fade as a beginner? Like as you get away from being a beginner. So I guess by that, do you mean the understanding coding, like feeling overwhelming? I think that's what they're trying to say. Well, I guess it depends why you got into game dev in the first place, because I got in as a programmer in mind. Like, so I never found it that daunting. Like, I didn't understand it at first, obviously, but I was never kind of scared by it or like put off by it because I was determined to learn the programming. A lot of people get in from the design aspect and never want to even touch programming anyway, but they put up with it because they have to. I don't know if you're more on that side of things.
I would say I'm more on that side. Like I don't, obviously I'm not afraid of coding or anything like that, but programming isn't my primary interest.
Yeah, you do it like to get by, to make the things you need to make work.
Yeah.
And if they work, you're happy, basically.
Yeah. But what I would say to that is, like, if you're like that, if you're not like diving into like programming being your main exciting thing, like I don't know everything about programming. I don't need to know. Yeah. I know the little bits of areas that I do, but also I know that I can look on the internet. I can go to Google and find out how to do the thing that I need to do at any particular time. Like I don't memorize stuff in general. Like I know where to look it up, or I know how to look at my old project where I did that thing and go, okay, that's how I did that thing. This is how I can do it again.
Yeah, I've had questions in the previous 3 streams about people saying, should I feel ashamed for Googling how to do something when I'm working on my project? No. I do it. So if I don't know, are people under the impression that I don't Google stuff? Like, I always have it on my other monitor, multiple tabs open, whether that's Stack Over... It depends. If I'm working on Unity, it's not usually Stack Overflow because they don't like Unity questions. It's usually the
Unity answers.
It'll be Unity forums or Unity answers or Reddit, Unity subreddits. It'll be all that stuff. And I hate it. I feel really bad if I ever look up a question and I go into a thread and someone's given a solution and it's one of my videos. And I'm like, oh no, I should know this. It's my own video I made like a year ago. It's happening a lot more. It's happening more recently than it used to. Someone's out because I, for example, did a tutorial on shaders, wanted to know more about shaders, and someone directed me back to my own video. And I was like, oh no. It's like, yes, I know how to do this. I made it. I want to know more. I don't need to go learn from myself. But I have referred back to my old videos sometimes for various little things that like I've I don't feel ashamed about that, because it's like, damn, I used to know how to do that, but it was months ago. You know, you're trying to cram in all this new knowledge. Sometimes the old knowledge might go. Not all of it, but some of it, you know. Yeah, all right.
There's only so much space in there first.
Yeah. What else do we have? Is there any chance you do more courses with GameDev TV, expanding their single-player courses to be adapted with Mirror? Well, as with anything, I don't have any plans for it, so I'm not going to say yes. But and I also don't really know yet what the future plans are with them. I mean, we're talking about stuff, but I don't think I don't want to get anyone's hopes up saying yes, there's more multiplayer new stuff coming in the future. So yeah, it's unlikely. I'll put it that way. I don't want to say no to anything, so I'll just say it's unlikely. So don't expect it, don't put it on your calendar, but I guess don't rule it out, but don't expect it. I mean, that's the safest thing I can say. Like I said, you know, multiplayer, it's like with Unity in general. Once you know how to use game objects and components, you can make a Unity game, pretty much. Like, you need to know maybe a little bit more about rigid bodies, collisions and stuff, and you can pretty much make anything. It's like with multiplayer. Once you know syncing and calling server, calling client, and starting up a server, you can make anything. So there's no need to go further than that. Like, sure, you can, but there's no need to. So people should be able to take it from there. And like I said, I'm still going to do Mirror stuff on the channel, so don't worry about that. I wasn't like selling out and just stopping Mirror content on the channel and just saying, no, you have to go buy this now. That's like a full project, making a game from scratch. The channel is more standalone stuff. Series never work on the channel. I don't know. I've heard that from everyone I've spoken to. Series, you've got to dedicate more time to it. People get bored of it. You want to start doing new content, but you've got to finish the series. There's so much more. Series are hard to do on YouTube to get to work. Yeah. So I think it's best YouTube. I have these standalone tutorials, whether it's Mirror, new this, new that, whatever. And then the course on Udemy is like a full game. If you really need help and you want to make a full game from scratch, that's the place to go. Yeah. All right. Any giveaway plans for either of us? I mean, I don't know. Are you thinking of on the launch of your game? Like, I mean, that's the thing with giveaways. It's like, obviously they can help build hype, right? It's like, I used to like entering competitions, like follow us on Twitter and you get in on this competition to win this PC or something. I've never won anything, I don't think. Well, I have a funny...
But I think that ultimately leads to, like, if you followed something just to try and win a prize, like, if you don't win the prize, you don't care, and then you end up following them and eventually just unfollowing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really worth. They're not quality follows, basically.
No, it's like the sub for sub thing. It's like,
what does that mean?
I've seen channels on YouTube that have like tons more subs than me, but if I ever look at their videos, they get like 10 views, and you can clearly tell they've bought subs. They just have to have, like, either that or their content has changed so drastically their entire follow base has just stopped caring. But that very rarely happens. It's probably like people do buy subs to try and get big, and then it just the algorithm doesn't favor them. It's not just your sub number that matters. You know,
it's literally just a number. Like, it doesn't matter.
I mean, your number can help, because if someone sees a big YouTuber, they might be more likely to sub. I don't know. Like, it feels more normal to sub to a big YouTuber than a small YouTuber, I think. But at the same time, the number itself doesn't matter in terms of recommending your video. You know, if you have no subscribers but a viral video, like, it'll still get recommended because it's a viral video. It's on like a per video basis, I think, that matters more. It's also about tags and, you know, what people watch more of. If people watch a lot of game dev, they're going to get more game dev, you know. It's just how it is. All right, 4 minutes. I think we can do probably 1 or 2 more questions. Best advice to... so someone said the best advice they'll give their self, this is their past self thing, is to show your work to others and get feedback.
That's a good one.
Yeah. If you work on something on your own for too long, you're in your own bubble, and you don't get feedback. And that's like, it's not a case of you need other people to tell you how to make your game, but it's good, even not even thinking about feedback, it's still good for like bug fixing and stuff. Someone tried one of my games once back when I didn't know how to do a health bar properly, and I'd used a slider, and I thought I'd done it right. The slider value would change the health bar. Whoops, I hit my mic. But because it was a slider, someone could go in and just drag the health bar down.
Yeah, I've done that.
And I was like, uh-oh. And it didn't kill the enemy. It's just UI. It's just a visual representation of the health. Yeah. But like, I was like, oh, that's funny. I would never have noticed that. I'm surprised someone went and tried to do it. I'm wondering like what made them try. Maybe they could tell the UI looked like a Unity slider as opposed to... And then I found out later on, oh, with an image, you can just set the image fill, and it does the same job, slightly, like, it's a different way of doing it, but it does the same job, and you can't click and drag it. So I was like, oh, okay.
I feel like that'd almost be a fun secret mechanic to have in a game.
Kill the enemies.
You can kill the enemies by dragging their health bar down.
Yeah, I thought about that too, but I thought, no, I'm not doing that. But still, like, I would never have figured that out, or let's not figured it out, I would never have realized it was an issue without someone playing it. And keep in mind, I only got like, I don't know, I was quite small at the time. I don't know how many people tried my game, but I can't imagine it being more than 100, probably around that lot. Even if the video got 1,000 views, a small percentage are going to actually bother to download it. Yeah. So whoever did try, probably not that many people, someone managed to find that issue. And I'm like, well, fixed it. Nice, thanks. So yeah, in terms of bug fixing, getting people to test stuff is definitely important. But also, like you say, if you think your game's fun and 1,000 people try it and no one finds it fun, chances are it's not fun. For maybe, and if people can give constructive criticism, it's the best, because at least they're actually explaining why they think the problem is, and you can agree or disagree with that. I guess it's up to you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do one more question because there's 2 minutes left. So, I will end on a question. This one's specifically for you, I guess. So James, what tutorial series are you the most proud of that you've done? Or like, yeah, I guess just which like types of videos are you most proud of, or I guess that you enjoyed making the most, that performed the best, or both? That I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like I've kind of done multiple ones now of like platformer games. Like originally that was what got me going on YouTube, doing tutorials, was a platformer series, and then the same thing on Udemy. I did a platformer tutorial, and I did a remake of it earlier this year. And like, I think those are the ones I've actually ended up enjoying the most. I don't know why. There's something about platformer games. They're so simple, but like, just doing them is so much fun.
To get them set up and working, it's just so fast, and then you can start adding all the fun mechanics. Like, just movement and jumping is so simple, but you can make it obviously so advanced and intricate. I can't remember was I talking with someone about Celeste? Or I'm sure you know about Celeste if you're everyone knows. Like the movement in that, all the little intricacies, and you can go from just movement and jump to movement and then like wall sliding, wall jumping, crouching, having bigger jump when you crouch, and then like holding jump for longer makes you jump higher. You can go as advanced as you want, but to get a platformer working, you can do it in 5 minutes in Unity. Chuck in a floor, chuck in a player, write a script to take input and move left and right. Done. It's like, and then you can have rigid body physics, but then like, rigid body physics aren't always the best for character movement. There's it's now a physics object, but a rigid body doesn't really represent like a human, assuming your character's humanoid. Like a human isn't just this like capsule that has physics. There's so much more to it than that. So I find a lot of the time, like physics for character movement can work to get a really quick thing off the ground, but then I don't know. Let's not get into a whole new topic right now. It's 8:30 now, and you said you need to go, so I think we should round out here. So thanks everyone for tuning in. This is probably the first stream where we've had questions that we haven't been able to answer in time. So store those questions for later and come back next week. I'm not going to announce the guest yet because I'm not 100% certain who it is. We have someone in mind, but we're not going to say. Just keep an eye out on the channel and on Twitter because we'll post about it as soon as we are sure who it is. So yeah, thanks for watching. Check out James' stuff. The link to your channel is below. I think that's what we put below. And there's various links throughout the stream Mick has put in. I think maybe for your Steam page, maybe for your Discord server or something. So yeah, just check that out. But yeah, thanks for coming on the stream this week. And
thanks for having me on. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. So someone just said they can't stay for long, but they've just arrived at the end. That's sad. Well, you can watch the VOD and come next week. So yeah, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching and goodbye. You want to say goodbye? Or...
Goodbye.
Goodbye. All right, see ya.